Welcome to the deep dive. When we think about magic, we often think about escaping reality, but Icelandic magic is sort of the opposite.
Yeah.
It's all about harnessing the power of the natural world
Right.
and using it to face life challenges head on.
Yeah.
So you sent us some YouTube videos about Icelandic magic,
Yes.
and we're diving deep into that world today.
Wonderful.
We're going to uncover how they did it
Right.
and see if there are any lessons that we can apply to our own lives.
Absolutely. I think what's so fascinating about Icelandic magic is how much it's a part of the country's history
Okay.
and the environment. Like, you've got this island nation that's way out there,
Yeah.
volcanoes, ice, steeped in Norse mythology.
It's like the landscape itself is magical.
Exactly. And that isolation, I think that really shaped Iceland's magical tradition. So while most of Europe was embracing Christianity, Iceland kind of held on to its pagan roots. They blended it with Christian elements, but you wouldn't find that blend anywhere else.
So it's not like your typical wizards and wands kind of magic.
Not quite. Imagine a world where magic is like this practical tool you use every day.
Okay.
Spells for protection, for healing, even to get good weather if you're going fishing.
Wow. Practical magic for real-world problems.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah.
But where did these spells come from? Are we talking ancient scrolls hidden in, secret caves?
Well, some might be tucked away in some archive somewhere, but the main source is actually grimoires.
Grimoires. I was picturing something a lot more mystical.
They're Icelandic spellbooks.
Okay.
And think of them less like mysterious cryptic tomes.
Right.
And more like almost like user manuals for magic.
Okay.
They're full of instructions that are straightforward, almost like recipes for spells, and they're meant to solve those daily challenges.
So less abracadabra and more like follow these 3 easy steps.
Exactly. And one of the most famous grimoires is the Galdra book, which is a great example of that practical approach. So it's got clear instructions, short spells, and they're even organized by what they're supposed to do. Almost like the ancient Icelanders knew we'd need, magic to be efficient.
Right. I am officially intrigued.
Yeah.
So what kind of spells are we talking about?
Well, one of the most common themes is protection. And I mean, I remember life in Iceland was rough, right? Imagine going out on the open sea in a tiny boat
Yeah.
or trying to get through those mountain passes in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
You want all the protection you can get.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Did they have a patron saint of don't fall off the glacier?
Maybe not a patron saint, but they did have staves,
Okay.
also called sigils. And those were powerful symbols that were thought to kind of harness particular energies.
Okay.
So, for example, there's the Vegvisor.
Vegvisor, I've heard of that. Isn't that like a magical compass?
Precisely. It's supposed to guide travelers, especially sailors,
Oh, okay.
through storms and difficult conditions.
Interesting.
But think about it. It wasn't just about physical navigation. What storms are you going through right now? Maybe the Vegvisor can help you find your way through that, too.
Whoa. I never thought of it that way. It's like a metaphor for life's challenges.
Exactly. And then you have the Aegishjalmur, a stave associated with protection and invincibility. Imagine Viking warriors, going into battle, and they've got the Aegishjalmur on their shields.
Oh, yeah. Talking about a confidence boost.
Right.
I can totally see how those symbols would be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Especially in a culture that's, constantly facing these challenges. But how did they actually use the staves? Did they just carry them around, or was there, more to it?
It wasn't just about having the symbol. It was about how you made it and what your intention was behind it. It wasn't just doodling a cool design. It was actually a ritual in itself.
Okay, so what did this ritual involve?
Well, first, you would pick a stave based on what you needed it for.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to think about materials. Forget fancy ingredients. Icelandic magic used things from nature.
Yeah.
Volcanic rock, animal bone, wood, things like that.
So they were really tapping into the power of what was around them.
Exactly. Imagine carving a stave for protection into a piece of volcanic rock,
Yeah.
formed by those very forces you're looking for protection from.
That's an incredible image.
Yeah.
It's like they were forging a connection between the physical and, the metaphysical.
Right. And during that process, visualization was really important.
Yeah.
It wasn't just making the stave, it was about putting your intention into it.
So you're kind of infusing the symbol with your own personal energy.
Exactly. And speaking of energy, you can't talk about Icelandic magic without talking about runes.
Okay. So runes are more than just a cool alphabet, right?
Oh, absolutely. Each rune has this specific concept and energy or force that it represents.
Okay.
It's like they're little tiny spells themselves,
Right.
and by combining them, you could create like these powerful formulas for different things.
So it's like having this magical language at your disposal.
Exactly. And that language was used in spells, protection charms, and even for divination.
That's really cool. So you've got these powerful symbols infused with intention,
Yeah.
and then you're like amplifying that with the energy of the runes.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty potent.
Mm-hmm.
But what did the spells themselves look like?
Well, they were less like, Shakespeare and more like, think about like a direct command. Short, sweet, to the point.
No need to memorize long, complicated incantations.
Not at all. Icelandic spells were often just phrases or even single words, sometimes written in runes, and often connected to specific deities or forces of nature.
Okay, so like a spell for safe travels might call upon a deity who's supposed to, protect travelers from the harsh Icelandic weather.
Precisely. It's all connected. The land, the beliefs, the magic. It's all about taking those elements and weaving them together to make magic that's both practical and powerful.
This is blowing my mind. It's so different from the magic that we usually see like in movies and books, but it feels much more real somehow, much more grounded.
And what's really fascinating is that these traditions are still alive today.
Oh, wow.
There were people exploring these practices and adapting them for, how we live now.
So how does someone practice Icelandic magic today? Can you just like pick up a grimoire and start casting spells?
Well, that's where it gets a little tricky. It's not just about copying what they did. It's about understanding, the culture, respecting the tradition, and approaching it with reverence.
So it's not just about the spells, but it's about the mindset, the intention behind them.
Exactly. It's really important to approach Icelandic magic with sensitivity and a deep appreciation for where it came from.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. It's not a party trick,
Right.
It's this rich tradition that's steeped in history and meaning.
Yeah, it's about honoring, the lineage of this magic and understanding its place within that culture.
Right. It's about connecting with the land, the spirits, and that ancient wisdom.
And speaking of passing down wisdom, what are some key things people should keep in mind if they're interested in learning more? Like what are the do's and don'ts?
Well, the first thing is research. Don't just start casting spells without understanding the history, the principles, and even, the potential risks.
Right, so knowledge before power.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about coming to this with humility,
Yeah.
And with respect. Remember, these aren't just quaint stories, or mystical tales. This is something people have practiced for centuries.
Yeah.
It deserves to be treated that way.
It's about honoring the power of these practices and acknowledging the responsibility that goes with it.
I like that. It's about approaching it, not like a tourist,
Right.
but like a student, eager to learn and grow.
It's about immersing yourself in the culture, the language, and the spirit of Iceland.
Exactly. It's about taking the time to understand the deeper meaning behind these practices and approaching them with that sense of like wonder and respect.
It's about embracing the journey of discovery, and letting the magic unfold naturally.
And something that might surprise you is that Icelandic magic wasn't just about getting what you want. There's a strong community element to these practices.
Okay, so it's not just like me, myself, and I. Tell me more about this community aspect.
Well, in a place like Iceland where communities are tight-knit,
Yeah.
if one person was struggling, it affected everyone. So it makes sense that their magic reflects that.
So it was about using magic to make the community stronger.
You got it. You'll find spells for things like protecting livestock,
Okay.
making sure there are good harvests, and even keeping sickness away from everyone in the community.
That's beautiful, like a magical safety net.
Exactly. A reminder that they're all in it together.
Yeah.
And that sense of community wasn't just for humans, it was for their relationship with nature, too.
Okay. So we've talked about the practical side of it and the community focus, but how did the Icelandic landscape shape their magical traditions?
Well, imagine being surrounded by, like, these huge volcanoes, glaciers, roaring waterfalls.
Yeah.
Nature's power is all around you, beautiful, but also kind of scary, right?
Mm.
It wasn't just a backdrop, it was this force in their lives.
Right. So they weren't trying to conquer nature,
Yeah.
but to live in harmony with it.
Exactly. And you see that deep respect for nature throughout Icelandic magic.
Okay.
It's not about controlling nature, but about working with it.
So it's about recognizing the power of those natural elements
Yes.
and learning to work with them, not against them.
You got it. And remember those natural materials we talked about?
Yeah.
Volcanic rock, animal bone, wood. That wasn't just practical, it was symbolic too,
Yeah.
right?
It was a way to connect with the energy of the land,
Yes.
to channel that power into their magic.
Exactly. And it went beyond just the materials. The spells themselves would often call upon specific natural elements or the deities connected to them.
Okay, so like a spell for healing might call upon a spirit associated with a certain hot spring that's known for its, healing properties.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the power of that landscape and harnessing it for magical purposes.
It's about recognizing that the earth itself is a source of magic,
Mhm.
and that we can learn to work with that energy to create positive change.
That's a great way to put it. It's about remembering that we are a part of nature, not separate from it.
Yeah.
And when we honor the earth, we honor ourselves.
Yeah. It's about rediscovering that ancient connection to nature and recognizing the wisdom and power that it holds.
Well said. This connection to nature wasn't just some philosophical idea, it was part of their magical practices.
So how did that manifest in their spells and rituals? Give us some examples.
Well, one example is directions. In Icelandic magic,
Right.
directions were really important.
Interesting.
Spells often said which way to face, like north for wisdom, east for new beginnings,
Wow.
south for strength.
It's like aligning yourself with, like, the Earth's energy grid.
I like that. And they weren't just choosing directions randomly. They paid attention to what those directions meant in their environment.
Oh, okay. So, like, if a certain mountain in the north was known for its power, facing north during a ritual might make that connection stronger.
Exactly. They worked with the specific energy of their surroundings. And another example is how they used natural features in their rituals.
Okay. What kind of natural features are we talking about?
Imagine doing a spell by a waterfall
Yeah.
where the sound of the water makes your intention stronger, or doing a healing ritual in a cave that's known for its healing energy.
Wow. That's a location
Yeah.
to a whole new level. It's like they were making these like magical partnerships with the land.
That's a great way to think about it. They understood that those places had power, and by including them in their rituals,
Yeah.
they could use that energy.
It's about recognizing that the earth is alive,
Yeah.
vibrant, with energy, and that we can learn to work with those energies to create positive change.
Beautifully said. It's about that ancient connection to nature
Yeah.
and recognizing that wisdom and power that's there.
Now, we've talked about like the general principles of Icelandic magic, but let's get into some specific examples.
Yeah.
What did they use magic for in their daily lives?
Well, like we said before, it was all about being practical, right? Think about the challenges they faced. Harsh weather,
Right.
not a lot of resources, and needing to protect themselves and their animals.
So their magic was focused on solving those everyday problems.
Exactly. One of the biggest things was protection. Imagine being on the open sea, facing storms.
Yeah.
Unpredictable water.
Yeah. Or those treacherous mountain passes in the winter.
Exactly. So protection magic was huge. We talked about the Aegishalmer stave,
Right.
which was supposed to protect from physical harm, but there were also spells to keep away evil spirits, curses, bad vibes, all of that.
It's like a multi-layered magical shield.
Exactly. They would carve these staves into their boats, their homes, even their clothing.
Wow.
And beyond physical protection, there were also spells for, mental and emotional well-being.
Well, like spells for courage, clarity, resilience in the face of hard times.
Exactly. Remember, they lived in a tough place, physically and mentally. So these spells were there to help them stay strong, focused, and balanced emotionally.
It's like this magical toolkit to help you through the good times and bad times.
I like that. And speaking of ups and downs, another common use for magic was healing.
Okay, healing. Were we talking like serious medical conditions or more like everyday aches and pains?
Both, actually. Iceland had a long tradition of using herbs for medicine.
Okay.
And they often mixed that with their magical practices.
So it's like a holistic approach,
Exactly.
blending the physical with, the metaphysical.
Right. So they would use herbs for their medicinal properties, but also incorporate spells and rituals to help the healing process.
So they're kind of like amplifying the effectiveness of the herbs with their intention and belief.
Exactly. And beyond just physical stuff, they also used magic to deal with emotional and spiritual imbalances.
So like spells for dealing with grief or for calming anxiety.
Oh, got it. It's about understanding that healing needs to address all parts of us.
Right.
The physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
It's about using magic to restore harmony and balance.
Yeah.
within ourselves and with the world around us.
Well said. That idea of harmony and balance, that's a big part of Icelandic magic.
Okay, let's dive deeper into this concept of harmony. How did they see magic's role in keeping things balanced, both within themselves and in the world?
Imagine this world where these forces of nature are always going at it. Fire and ice, light and dark, things being created and destroyed.
By this constant dance between these opposing forces.
Exactly. And for the Icelanders, magic wasn't about trying to control these forces, but about learning to work with them, finding that sweet spot, the balance.
So it's about understanding that those opposing forces actually work together, that they need each other to exist.
Exactly. They saw magic as a way to bridge the gap, to create harmony and flow.
It's like they were the conductors, orchestrating the energy of the universe to create this harmonious symphony.
I love that. And they believed that when those forces are in balance, everything thrives.
So it wasn't just about what they could get out of it, but about making the entire ecosystem better.
Exactly. It's about knowing we're all connected and that what we do affects everything else.
Right.
It's about using magic responsibly, carefully, and with good intentions.
So to create a more balanced and harmonious world.
Yes. And this is where weird comes in.
Weird. That sounds intriguing. What does that mean in Icelandic magic?
Weird is a tough concept, but it's like this. You've got a path set out for you, your destiny, but you still have choices along that path. Icelandic magic is about working with that flow, making choices that help you get to your destiny.
So it's not about forcing things to happen, but about working within how things naturally are.
You got it. They understood that there were things they couldn't control.
Right.
But they also believed they could shape their destiny within that.
It's like finding that middle ground between just accepting things and taking action.
Yeah.
Like surrendering to what is, but still taking responsibility for your choices.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about knowing that we create our reality together with the universe.
It's about that balance.
Yeah.
Surrender and willpower, trusting in the flow of life, but also actively shaping your path.
Well said. This idea of weird is really a metaphor for life in general.
Okay.
It's about understanding that we're all connected, that our choices matter,
right,
and that we can create a better, more fulfilling reality, not just for ourselves, but for everyone that comes after us.
It's about embracing the whole journey, the ups and downs, knowing that we're never really in control, but that we always have the power to choose how we respond to, the challenges and opportunities along the way.
Beautifully put. It's about surrendering to the mystery of it all, while embracing the fact that we help create the world around us.
Now, before we go to the next part of our deep dive into Icelandic magic, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on how we can use these ancient practices in the world today.
That's an interesting question. On the surface, Icelandic magic might seem really specific to its time and place.
Yeah.
But the ideas behind it, they're surprisingly timeless.
So it's not about literally recreating what they did, but taking those core ideas and making them work for us now.
Exactly. Think about how much they focused on being practical, connecting with nature, and working with the universe, not trying to fight it.
Right.
Those are all things we can use no matter what we believe or where we're from.
Yeah, absolutely.
For example, they really focused on intention and visualization, and that's something that modern psychology and even quantum physics are starting to understand and prove.
It's like those ancient practices were onto something that science is just starting to catch up with.
It's amazing, right? And beyond the science, there's also this growing understanding that being mindful, connecting with ourselves and with nature is really important.
Yeah.
Those are all central to Icelandic magic, and they're more important now than ever.
Right, especially in our world today, which is so fast-paced and, driven by technology.
Absolutely. By studying Icelandic magic, we can learn to slow down, pay attention, and reconnect with the rhythms of life.
It's about finding that sense of wonder that we often lose as we get older.
Beautifully said. It's about remembering that magic is all around us.
Yeah.
It's in the small moments, the beauty of nature, the connections we share.
It's about opening ourselves up to the possibility that the world is more magical than we realize.
And sometimes all it takes is looking at things differently. Being willing to see the world with new eyes, to tap into that ancient wisdom that's been passed down.
It's about remembering that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. We're connected to this web of life in ways that we might not even fully understand.
Well said. It's about embracing that mystery, trusting the journey, and letting the magic unfold in its own time and way.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to move on to the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the history and principles of Icelandic magic, how they actually used it, and the connection to nature and community.
It has been a fascinating journey so far. I'm excited to keep exploring.
We'll be back soon to go even deeper into the world of Icelandic magic.
Wonderful.
We'll be looking at specific spells and rituals
Okay.
and discussing how we can integrate these ancient practices into our lives today. Until then, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, the magic's all around you.
It is.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Waiting to be discovered. Welcome back to our deep dive into Icelandic magic. Before we took a moment to gather our thoughts, we were talking about how these ancient practices can be surprisingly relevant to our lives today.
Yeah, it's like they were ahead of their time, especially when you think about how they understood that everything's connected and how powerful our intentions are.
Exactly.
So are we ready to unlock some of the secrets of these Icelandic spellbooks?
Absolutely. Let's jump into some specific spells and rituals from those Icelandic grimoires.
I'm all ears. What kind of practical magic did they use, like, day to day?
Well, let's start with protection magic.
Right.
It's something that's just as relevant today, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you're about to do something challenging, like you have to give a big presentation at work, or maybe you're navigating a tricky social situation.
Okay, I'm picturing myself getting ready for that presentation, feeling those pre-speech jitters.
Now, imagine you're holding a piece of rough volcanic rock, and you whisper these words. I call upon the strength of the mountains to shield me from harm, to guide my steps, and to keep me safe on my journey.
It's so simple, but powerful. I can almost feel the energy of those words, like grounding me and protecting me.
That's the beauty of Icelandic magic. It's not about complicated rituals. It's about connecting with that raw power of nature and channeling it through what you want.
Yeah, it's about tapping into those like primal forces, the ones that have always been there,
Yeah.
the energies that flow through us and everything around us.
Exactly. And the spell highlights that connection with the land. That volcanic rock, it's like a physical reminder of the Earth's power,
Yeah,
a symbol of resilience and strength. It's like you're carrying a piece of Iceland's energy with you.
like a little talisman,
Yeah.
to protect you on your journey. And this works for any kind of journey, right? Not just like physical travel.
Exactly. Whether it's a physical journey, an emotional one, or even a spiritual one, it's about creating this like shield of positive energy, a feeling of strength and resilience.
Empowering ourselves to face, whatever comes our way. I love that. Now, you can't talk about Icelandic magic without mentioning runes. Earlier, you said they were more than just fortune-telling tools.
Right. They saw runes as powerful symbols, each one with its own energy or concept. So combining them was like making a specific magical formula.
So it's like arranging them is similar to writing a sentence, but instead of words, you're using these energetic symbols.
Exactly. And one of the most common ways they used runes was for healing.
Okay.
So let's say someone in your community was sick. You might gather some healing herbs like chamomile and yarrow. Then you would carefully carve the runes for healing fehu, urus, and kanaz onto a piece of wood or bone.
Okay, and those runes represent vitality, strength, and transformation, right? Like each one adds another layer of intention to the healing.
You're getting it. Then you would hold those runes over the herbs, picturing their energy flowing into the plants, making their natural healing power even stronger.
So it's not just about the herbs themselves, but about the intention and energy you're putting into them.
Exactly. Finally, you'd brew a tea with those herbs and give it to the person who needs it. The Icelanders believed in a holistic approach, blending physical remedies with the power of the mind.
It's amazing how they combine those two things, the physical and the intangible, to create these healing rituals.
And it really shows how important community was in Icelandic magic.
Yeah.
If one person was struggling, it affected everyone. It wasn't just about healing yourself, it was about sharing what you knew to help others.
It speaks to this idea that we're all connected, like we're all part of a bigger web. You mentioned something called bean runes earlier. What are those?
Bean runes are super cool. They're when you take two or more runes and combine them into a single symbol.
So it's like a shorthand way of combining a bunch of energies or intentions into this one powerful symbol. I can see how that would be useful.
Exactly, like a personalized magical recipe. Let's say you're working on a tough project that needs a lot of creativity. You might combine the runes for inspiration, creativity, and manifestation Ansus, Kinaz, and Ingwaz.
So the runes are like building blocks, and you can create all these different combinations for different intentions.
Exactly. You could carve this new bean rune onto a piece of wood, or even just picture it when you're meditating. It's like a visual reminder of what you want, helping you focus your energy and attract what you need.
Okay, I get it. Focusing on this visual representation of your goals and combining that with the energy of the runes could be really powerful for making things happen. It's almost like making a magical plan for success.
I like that. And the possibilities are endless because you can combine any runes that feel right for you. It's all about tapping into your power and aligning it with the energies of the universe.
It's a great reminder that magic doesn't have to be something outside of us.
Right.
It can come from within, from our connection to the earth and the forces that flow through us.
Well said. Before we move on, I want to share one more spell that I find particularly meaningful.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's a spell for gratitude. It might not seem as dramatic as some of the other spells, but it's incredibly powerful.
I love that. Gratitude is so important. We often forget to appreciate all the good things we have.
Exactly. This spell is all about cultivating that appreciation, seeing all the good in our lives, even when things are hard.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me how it works.
Picture yourself out in nature. It could be a forest, a beach, a mountain, even just your own backyard.
Okay.
Take a deep breath and really feel the ground beneath your feet.
Grounding myself, feeling that connection.
Perfect. Now close your eyes and think about everything you're grateful for. Your loved ones, your health, a beautiful sunset, a delicious meal, anything that brings you joy.
I feel a sense of warmth just thinking about all the good things in my life.
That's the power of gratitude. It feeds your soul and reminds us that even in the tough times, there's always something to appreciate.
It's about changing your perspective, focusing on what you have, not what you don't.
Exactly. Now for the powerful part. As you feel that gratitude growing, whisper these words. Thank you, universe, for all the blessings in my life. May this gratitude flow outwards, touching all beings with love and light.
It's like I can feel that gratitude like radiating outwards, touching everything around me.
That's the magic. It's not just about feeling grateful inside, but about sharing it with others, making the world a more loving and harmonious place.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all connected. Our energy affects others. And by being grateful, we can spread positivity that reaches beyond ourselves.
Beautifully said. And it's something anyone can do no matter what they believe. True abundance isn't about stuff, it's about how we see the world.
Yeah, it's about appreciating the magic and beauty that's already there, even in the little things.
Absolutely. Shifting from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love, from feeling separate to feeling connected.
Remembering that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves, like threads in this tapestry of life.
Well said. Now, before we move on, it's important to talk about the ethics of practicing Icelandic magic today.
Right.
We've touched on respect and being sensitive to the culture, but what are some specific things people should remember if they're interested in these practices?
That's an important point. It's one thing to be curious about Icelandic magic, but it's another to approach it with understanding and respect.
Exactly. We need to remember that this isn't just some made-up story or fantasy. It's a real tradition that deserves to be honored.
So it's not just about following the steps in a book,
Right.
but about approaching it with thought and responsibility. What's a good first step for someone who genuinely wants to learn more?
The foundation is learning. Immerse yourself in Icelandic history, their myths, and their culture. There are books, documentaries, and good online sources out there that can teach you about it in an accurate and respectful way.
It's about approaching it humbly and with curiosity, like genuinely wanting to learn and understand, not just looking for a quick thrill or wanting power.
You got it. It's about coming to it as a student, ready to learn and grow. And once you have a good understanding, it's important to connect with the land.
So does that mean we all need to hop on a plane and go to Iceland to really get it?
That's a good question. While experiencing the raw beauty of Iceland firsthand is amazing, it's not the only way to connect with the land. You can find that connection anywhere.
Finding those places that inspire you and make you feel connected to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. Whether it's a forest, a beach, a mountaintop, the important thing is to be in awe of nature and recognize that we're all part of it. It's about remembering that the earth itself is magical, and we can tap into that energy wherever we are.
So once someone has that knowledge and connection to nature, what are some ways they could start exploring Icelandic magic safely and respectfully?
Visualization and meditation are great places to start.
Okay.
The Icelanders were masters of these techniques, and they're essential for working with energy and intention.
So it's about calming your mind, focusing your attention, and directing that energy toward what you want to create.
Exactly. As you get more comfortable with those practices, you can start using things like natural materials, runes, or incorporating directions into your own rituals.
But it's important to remember those things aren't just props or decorations.
Right.
They're powerful symbols
Yeah.
and should be treated with respect and intention.
Absolutely. It's not about blindly following instructions. It's about understanding what each element means and using them consciously.
It's about seeing Icelandic magic as this, collaborative effort, a partnership between ourselves, nature, and the energies that flow through us.
Beautifully put. As you keep exploring, remember to be open to the mystery, trust your intuition, and let the magic unfold in its own way and time.
Yeah, embracing the journey, knowing there's always more to learn, experience, and appreciate.
Right.
We've covered a lot here talking about specific spells, what's right and wrong, and how to approach Icelandic magic respectfully.
It's been fascinating, and in the last part of our deep dive, I'm excited to talk about the lasting impact of Icelandic magic and what wisdom it offers for living a more meaningful life today.
It's been an eye-opening conversation, and I'm curious to hear what other insights we can find in this ancient tradition. We'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring Icelandic magic, its history, its principles, its practical applications, and how it's all connected to nature and community.
Yeah, it is amazing how something that seems so tied to a specific time and place can still be so relevant today.
It makes you wonder, what can we take away from these practices? How can we apply what they knew to our lives today?
Well, one big thing we can learn from Icelandic magic is that we're part of nature, not separate from it.
Yeah.
The Icelanders lived in this world where nature was powerful and ever-present, beautiful, but also, could be dangerous. Their magic wasn't about trying to control nature, but about working alongside it.
It's a perspective that feels really important right now, especially with everything going on with the environment and climate change.
Absolutely. We need to rediscover that sense of connection.
Yeah.
Remember that how we're doing is tied to how the planet's doing.
It's about changing how we think.
Yeah.
Not just taking from the earth, but giving back.
Right.
Understanding that we're part of this bigger ecosystem.
Beautifully said. And another key thing is the power of intention and visualization.
Okay.
The Icelanders were really good at these things, They used them to focus their energy, to heal, and to bring about the things they wanted.
It's really interesting how these ancient practices line up with what modern science and psychology are finding out about how powerful the mind is.
It is fascinating, isn't it? They seem to know that our thoughts and beliefs have a real impact on our lives. And the great thing is, anyone can do this. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
It's a reminder that we can all be creators, shaping our own lives through our thoughts, beliefs, and what we do. That's a powerful message.
It is. It tells us that we're not just along for the ride,
Yeah.
We have the power to make choices.
Right.
To decide how we handle challenges.
Yeah.
To set our intentions and work towards the life we want.
It gives you hope,
Yeah.
It's like saying we're not just stuck with whatever happens to us.
Right. And lastly, Icelandic magic reminds us that real strength comes from community.
Yeah.
We've talked about how their magic wasn't just about what one person could get, but about creating a support system for everyone.
It's really inspiring to see that sense of shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Using their power for the good of the whole group.
It is. They knew that when we help each other, share our knowledge and resources, we all do better.
It reminds us that we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And that we can do amazing things when we work towards a common goal.
I love that. So, as we think about all we've learned about Icelandic magic, it's really important to remember that it's not just something from the past.
Yeah.
It's still alive and changing.
So it's not about trying to copy exactly what they did, but more about understanding the main ideas and making them fit our modern lives in a way that feels real to us.
Exactly. It's about taking those core principles, the connection to nature, the power of intention, the importance of community, and figuring out how to express them in our own unique ways.
It's not about becoming Icelandic. It's about becoming more fully human.
I like that.
More connected to ourselves, to the earth, and to the magic that's all around us.
Beautifully said. And as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thing to think about.
Okay, hit us with it.
If the Icelanders were able to create such a rich and meaningful magical tradition based on nature and connection, what kind of magic can we create in our own lives?
Wow, That's a big question.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge to rethink what's possible and to remember that magic isn't just in fairy tales. It's something we can all tap into.
Exactly. It's about embracing that sense of wonder, trusting our instincts, and using our creativity and power.
So to our listeners, as you go about your day, think about this. What kind of magic will you create today?
What seeds of intention will you plant? What acts of kindness will you offer? What possibilities will you open yourself up to?
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Icelandic magic.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you found some inspiration and maybe some practical tips you could take with you.
Me too.
It's been great to dive into this fascinating world with you all.
It has. Remember, the magic is all around you, waiting to be discovered.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep believing, and keep the magic alive.